there's been hundreds of billions of dollars literally invested directly and indirectly in positioning on organic search, specifically Google, and it's all about to get wiped off the map. And I mean that very literally. It's about to get completely wiped off. It's not yet. We're living in a Venn diagram world now where SEO is still important because there's still people using search, obviously. And Google is going to set its own search graph on fire at a certain point, and I can more or less prove that. And they're rebuilding the knowledge graph from the ground up. And if you don't play the AEO game, you're going to get left behind. And what's really fun about it is category kings are going to be usurped. So everybody who currently operates at the top of the dominance hierarchy is at risk and probably will be reset. And so if you're new or fresh or just willing to do the work, this is the biggest opportunity to grab to play a land grab game. And dude, is it insanely valuable.
Representing franchise secrets, Eric Von Horn.
Kasim, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm living the dream. Eric, how are you, buddy?
Do you always live in the dream? No, you're not
Always.
always living the dream, but in your mind you are.
Yeah, I think we have to define terms as to what the dream is.
What's the dream?
So I mean, I think if, being divorced and 40 is the dream, that I'm living it.
Is that the
Right?
dream that you thought you'd be living in right
That's
now?
not the dream that I thought I'd be living. No, but I'm pretty lucky, man. I got 2 little boys that they're the best little boys in the whole world. I'm rich, which is fun. I did assume I'd be rich, although I thought that would happen sooner. But dude, money's interesting in that I feel safe, which is great, but I don't feel all the things that I thought I'd feel. And I think every rich guy goes through that. I remember listening to Tony Robbins tapes as a kid and him talking about, like, when you get the money, it's not gonna be everything. And I remember being so mad. So I was like, screw you, dude. There's no way that's true. And now here I am, like, saying that same garbage. There's some poor young guy on the other end of this who's, just thinks that money's gonna solve all their problems, and it won't. It's awesome. Like, I recommend it. And here we are, still not self-actualized or fully healed or even all that happy all the damn time, but still living the dream.
What does living the dream mean right now with money? So you have money, you have enough passive income coming in or enough set aside so you don't have to worry about, about bills and even lifestyle. But what does living the dream like in that context mean?
Oh, dude, it's weird because there's something that's actually kind of hard about that. When you have no, I remember reading that we'll get real morbid here, but the highest rate of depression is in elderly retired people. And it's because they just have no reason to wake up. And if you go to get a job at Walmart as a greeter, that's a reason to wake up in the morning. And so when I sold my business, I sold in 2022, late 2022. And all of a sudden it was like, man, I don't have this, I had 100 employees, I had $100 million in ad spend. I felt important. I had a purpose. And selling the business now, like, I own some things and I dabble, but I don't have anything. Like, I don't have a tiger to run away from. And I did for a long, long time. There was I felt like there was a tiger chasing me and I was running from it. And that's a hell of a purpose. And once you outrun the tiger, there's a lot of people that are intrinsically motivated to run towards something. I think Alex Hormozy's like that. Like, Alex doesn't need to run away from anything. He needs to run towards something. I'm not that guy. Like, the running towards, I'll jog, I'll do a brisk walk towards, like, oh, here's a goal. Like, I can brisk walk towards that goal. But if I'm really going after it, I need to run away from something. And I, at the moment, have nothing to run away from.
I know too many people that have sold, had a bunch of cash come in, and they've been working at that for a long time. They get the windfall of cash, or they're just making a lot of money,
Yeah.
and they sell, and then they're on to doing something else, like trying to create something even bigger than the last thing.
Yeah.
Are you tempted to do that, or are you
Oh, no,
happy
I'm
with
doing
the
that for
freedom?
sure. Yeah. No, I've spent a $500,000 so far building, I don't know if I'm gonna I'll tell you what it is privately, Eric, but I don't know if I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag just yet because I've got some patents pending and whatnot, but it's my $1 billion moonshot. Like, if I'm a billionaire, this will be what it is that does it.
Does it
And,
require a grind or does it require like strategy or
no,
both?
it requires strategy. So I'm talking to the SEC right now, getting a no action letter. I'm filing patents, making sure that I'm protected from an IP perspective. We've already built what it is. It exists. It's just, when to launch, how to go to market, how to articulate its value. Um, it's just kind of a strategic, when do we time it? How do we put it out there? It's the type of thing that can get you shot in the back of the head. Um, like anything that challenges category kings scares me a little bit. Um, so we'll see.
So I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't think like that when they have the money. They're used to grinding, so they go right back into the grind to have more. And I don't
Yeah.
know always why. Like they say they want the lifestyle, they say they want the freedom, and to do all these different things, but yet they go back into working 60, 70 hours a week
No, I definitely did
to
not do that.
yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you have to the entrepreneurs out there right now that are working towards an exit, or they're building their first business or franchise, and they're going to have a significant amount of cash flow where they've never had that before, they're really happy, or maybe they have an exit. Like, what are the things that go through your mind in the grind of building that kind of help you get to this place right now where you are enjoying life and yet still building something, but more strategically?
I sat next to a guy at Genius Network. Have you been in Genius? Do you know Joe
I have
Polish?
not, but I know all about it.
Yeah, Joe's an awesome human. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I think he's the best community builder probably in the world.
Yeah.
And I sat next to this guy. His name is John. He was at Joe's 100K group, which means everybody in that room paid $100,000 to be in the room. So like, not jokers. You know what I mean? And this guy helps people with exits, and it was funny because he talked about it, and he goes, the exit on a long enough timeline, zooming out, generally speaking, is not a positive experience. He's like, as a matter of fact, for an entrepreneur, and he had some data behind this, but he's like, it's the highest uh, the highest likelihood of developing an addiction, getting a divorce, developing a bad habit, making massive catastrophic mistakes financially. It's all tethered to the exit. So if you're right now grinding, uh, I would I would do the work outside of the work. You know what I mean? Like most of us never went to therapy, don't do the, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of demons. And I've noticed that of everybody who's ever achieved any amount of real success, it, it 100 times out of 100 in my experience comes from some level of trauma. And so it's not, it's that trauma equips you to do the thing. Dude, to work, I did 80 hours a week for 20 years. That's a trauma response. You know what I mean? Like nobody does that normally. Like I was raised by a blind single mother on Social Security disability. We're welfare babies. I wanted to not do that. That's a trauma response. And so I worked really hard in order to achieve this, what I thought would make, what I thought would satiate that fear, and it didn't. And then my excuse was taken away, and I had to attend to my trauma response. And so I think if you're listening to this, it makes a lot of sense to start now. Like don't wait until, the Band-Aid is ripped off and you're like, "Oh shit, now I have to really look in the mirror and figure out, who am I and what's wrong." I think there's so much value in those things, dude. I think there's so much value in getting a really good counselor, like a really good, or if you don't want to do that, that's okay. Talk to a buddy, have an accountability partner that you just get on the phone with once a month, and have somebody that you can actually have that real conversation with. Men specifically, if you don't mind me being mildly sexist, I think are really bad at this. They're really bad at putting themselves in a position where they have a conduit through which they can just say the words, "I feel X." You know what I mean? Like, "I feel this is what I'm currently feeling." And I think getting that out of the way, working that muscle early will put you in a position of saving yourself you know, from what does end up being a lot of rope, dude. Like money's a lot of rope to hang yourself with. So this
So
this podcast started super positive, dude. I'm
I
so
know,
glad
I
I could
know.
trust your listeners.
So I didn't have trauma
Yeah.
in growing up, but I also don't have that drive that I see like you had and some of these others have, just to go hard. I mean, I know friends, mutual friends of ours that grew up, very difficult situations. They are just driven. So, and then others just, others are maybe didn't have as much trauma or trauma defined that way, yet they're not open and honest with themselves. And I think,
Mhm.
like what Kasim said, find a counselor, find somebody, a friend that you can talk to. And I think when I think about finding today, like I take notice when I'm around people and they talk about their failures. They are open about that. They talk about things that they've improved. They've talked about how they're becoming a better father, how they're becoming a better leader, and mistakes that they've made. And when you're around those types of people, those are safer people or men to start having these types of conversations with. And you and I have been
Yeah.
fortunate to be around some of those people, so it makes it easier for us to spot that type of character. Any other thoughts around that?
No, dude, I think you nailed it. I think put yourself in an environment where people are modeling behavior that forces you to be healthy. It's real easy to get into kind of like the entrepreneurship tends to be something of a locker room, mostly. It's a bunch of dudes being douchebags. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that there's something about it that actually helps the pursuit. And maybe go put yourself around some people that are willing to, be like, hey, I made this mistake. Here's what I learned. Those are such productive conversations.
So natural transition into AEO, AI, and all kinds of other stuff. But we first met at a mastermind, and then we've been a part of multiple masterminds together, and that's where we became friends. And I'm so grateful. Like I'm truly grateful for the friendship. You and I can go like 3, 6, 12 months without talking. We'll send each other a text every now and then just get on and have some amazing conversations, whether it's on a podcast or just getting on a Zoom. So I'm so grateful for those rooms that we've been in together and where those relationships lead. Like when I think about you, I know that you had an agency in marketing. You did a lot of I mean, tell people what you did, but I want to talk about AI, SEO, and AEO.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody better to talk about that than you right now.
I built the number one ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I sold it in October of 2022. I'm an agency guy. I've built 6 agencies that have reached 7 figures in revenue or more. I've had 3 exits. One for 8 figures, one for 7 figures, and one I basically gave away, to be honest with you. I shouldn't even call it an exit, Eric, if you
Yeah,
saw
but
the
three
numbers,
exits sounds much better than two. I
sounds
mean,
better. Yeah, well, it's like 2 exits and I gave a business back to a partner. But I got cash asking, right? It's an
yeah.
exit. It was
Oh
an
yeah.
exitable business. I preface with all that because I know agency better than anybody in the world, maybe, and that's not a flex. It's a stupid business model. It's like the dumbest way to make your money. It's like $1 at a time because I'm not smart enough to figure anything else out. But when the shift in context happened recently with AI driven chatbots, um, I was on the phone with my buddy Nuno Tavares. Nuno's one of the smartest humans in the world. And Nuno says the words AEO or the letters AEO. And I'm like, what is AEO? He's like, oh, it's like SEO, but for AI. It's answer engine optimization instead of search engine optimization. And bro, it was like just this like explosion in my face. I just instantly thought and realized like, oh, this is the thing. This is the most important shift in the conduit through which humanity allows its attention to be funneled. Because you, me, and everybody else used to look through the eyes of a search engine when we were asking the high commercial questions, right? Like, how do I buy? Where do I go? What do I do? Those are the most valuable questions. And I know that because I had a Google Ads agency. I spent $100 million of other people's money on an annual basis. So I saw the value of that. To go from the conduit being search to the conduit being answer engines, I was like, oh, this is the thing. So I have a 5-person team that has done nothing for roughly about 18 months but study how LLMs source their citations. I have more data on this topic than any human alive that I know, definitely more than anybody who publishes, at least. And we have been able to reverse engineer the common denominators behind the major AI engines and how and why they make their decisions. And it's really fascinating, dude. Here's what I'll tell you. And I've gotten a lot of hate mail, vitriolic messages. Uh, I did a podcast with Jason Swank, who's a big agency guy. If you don't know Jason, he was in War Room, I think, for a little while. And I was basically just came out and said AEO is not SEO, and here's why. That's all I said. But he's got a bunch of nerdy SEOs that follow him, and dude, they were so mad because it's an existential crisis for them. I'm basically saying everything that you know is worthless, and we need to now go learn this new thing. And they did not like me saying that. But I'll say it here to your listeners. Um, there's been hundreds of billions of dollars literally invested directly and indirectly in positioning on organic search, specifically Google, and it's all about to get wiped off the map. And I mean that very literally. It's about to get completely wiped off. It's not yet. We're living in a Venn diagram world now where SEO is still important because there's still people using search, obviously. And Google is going to set its own search graph on fire at a certain point, and I can more or less prove that. And they're rebuilding the knowledge graph from the ground up. And if you don't play the AEO game, you're going to get left behind. And what's really fun about it is category kings are going to be usurped. So everybody who currently operates at the top of the dominance hierarchy is at risk and probably will be reset. And so if you're new or fresh or just willing to do the work, this is the biggest opportunity to grab to play a land grab game. And dude, is it insanely valuable. Answer engine traffic is worth, it's hard to hyperbolize, man. 100x what organic traffic is worth. People come from an answer engine ready to buy, convert, subscribe, whatever, to do the thing. They've been pre-sold, which sometimes works against you. But that's kind of the short version. How did I do? Protect your listeners from me.
You're probably not going to get a lot of hate mail.
Yeah.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
How does someone even start with like a strategy? Let's say it's a franchisor. Franchisor is looking for, maybe it's HVAC or, garage doors or blinds or whatever, pool services, whatever it is. Like, is that something that they should be doing AEO and SEO, side by side? Or is this something that I should be taking advantage of being like, having a pretty big following in the franchising world and just diving into AEO, producing more articles and things out there. So I will, in 5 years from now, I'll have a much larger reach or rank high on AEO.
Yes to both. You want to do SEO and AEO at the moment because both are still viable. So you've got a foot on a boat and a foot on the dock, with an understanding that the boat is going to leave and set sail, and the dock is going to burn to the ground. People don't like that answer, but it's like, this is what happens when markets shift. Both at the moment are viable. And what's worse is both are viable, but when you start doing AEO, then the question becomes, well, AEO for what? Are you going to index towards ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini or Grok? Because they're all different. Their algorithms are different. And so what I like this as a service provider, because that means I can charge way more money. When there's consolidation, like when there's multiple search engines, there's 6 search engines and nobody knows which one's the best one, and there's a lot of disparate use, that's a way better place for me to be, as opposed to Google becoming 96% of all search, and now I can only optimize towards Google, and the markets get way, way, way more efficient. So right now we're dealing with a very inefficient market, which is bad news for you if you're trying to do this work. But it's good news in a weird idiosyncratic way, because it means it's bad news for everybody. So if you're willing to do the work, most people just will not do it. And now is the time to capture market share. If your only real competitive advantage is you're willing to do the work, that means that you can be small, you can be nimble, you can have very little money, very little investment, very little connections, et cetera, and you can still make headway. Now, answer engines, and this part sucks. Answer engine, that's actually, now that I think about it, sucks the most for franchisors maybe. Answer engines like people, not brands. So answer engines want Eric Van Horn, not Franchise Secrets. Answer engines want Alex Ramosi, not acquisitions.com. They do not like brands, because a brand can't write a book, get a PhD, host a podcast. And answer engines trust people. The first principle through which we should view AEO is answer engines are attempting to replicate how a human distills information. And humans also prefer people, a person-driven authority. You know, like you go to a university and you listen to a lecture from a professor. The idea that we would listen to a lecture from like an amalgam of humanity that would be delivering information in a genericized way wouldn't resonate with anybody. You need to connect with the person, and sometimes you connect more with, you know, one than others. And yet having that singular avatar is really, really important. So if you want answer engines to choose you as the source of information, you have to establish yourself as an authority. And most people do not want to do that. And what you're doing right now, dude, this is it.
Yeah.
If you started a podcast, put your podcast everywhere podcasts can go, repurpose it into some YouTube videos and some Instagram reels. Congratulations, you're doing authority building. It's not hard. It's tedious, right? But there's a difference. Like there's a difference between hard and tedious. Like this is just like working out's not hard, right? You know, we know what to do. We know how to do it. We know where to do it. It's tedious. But if you're willing to do it, most people aren't, then you own your market and your industry. And answer engines are not going to be like search engines, because answer engines are so much smarter. They can get far more contextual. What that means is they can get way more specific. So for example, I did a talk for Molly Pittman's audience yesterday. They have a brand, Boom by Cindy Joseph, which is makeup for older women. So if you're a woman over 50 and you want to buy makeup, you would go to Google and say, you know, makeup for women over 50. And Google would give you Boom by Cindy Joseph, because Google is about an aggregated authority. Answer engines are about contextual authority specific to you. So if you're a woman over 50, but you're black and I'm white, or you live in, let's say, the Pacific Northwest, where there's more moisture, there's more mold, and from a socioeconomic perspective, people tend not to be, let's say, as wealthy as somebody in Beverly Hills. And from a cultural perspective, they tend not to use as much makeup, let's say, as somebody in Beverly Hills. Then what the answer engine wants is, it doesn't want aggregated authority. It actually wants distilled fractal authority. It wants to go to a woman over 50 in Seattle who is of whatever ethnicity you might be, and demographically and psychographically more aligned with who you, the searcher, are. So where search engine optimization used to be 5, maybe 10% context, meaning considering the searcher, answer engines are going to be mostly, the majority of the answer is going to be contextual. And that's really interesting, because if you and I are sitting right next to each other, dude, if we're twin brothers sitting next to each other and both of us go look for, you know, I don't know what, best barbecue near me. Well, I'm divorced and you're married. I have boys, you have girls. I like the Cowboys, you like the Steelers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to get different answers. And humanity, the business world, is not ready for that, because that's not the way that marketing's worked up until this point. So it's going to be really interesting to see what we do with this fractionated fractal authority. Everybody needs to be a little authority in their space, and you can do it, dude. If you're a dog groomer, if you're a dog groomer in St. Louis, Missouri, and you only work on Shih Tzus, you're in a hell of a spot right now when it comes to answer engine optimization, because you posting your content and telling people how you should do what they do and what to look out for, and tips and tricks and hints and best practices and all that shit. That's the type of thing that when somebody goes, hey, who should cut my Shih Tzu's hair? ChatGPT goes, oh, Eric's a dog groomer in St. Louis who only works on Shih Tzus. And this is that level of analysis is now available to us, and it never has been before.
So what advice, I mean, that's encouraging and discouraging all at the same time.
Right.
What advice would you have for me? Because I think this will help the broader audience Is it continue to do my podcast and then just repurpose that content, but repurposing it through like LinkedIn newsletters or my, or different publications? What should I do differently than I did 5 years ago with my
You're gonna
podcast
have a
or
hard
just in
time.
general?
You're gonna have the hard time for the same reason I have the hard time. I own Pareto Talent, which staffs Latin American executive assistants. I own Driven Mastermind, which is a mastermind for entrepreneurs over 7 figures. I own AEO.co, which is what we're talking about. I own VCinc.ai, which is a vibe coding incubator. I own all this. And so what happens is my brand is diluted because AI looks at me and says, "Who are you, dude? Like, what is this costume the same as that costume?" So because you've got franchise secrets and you're a franchisor and you do some investing and you're a really dynamic human, which makes you hard to figure out. This might not always be true. Once AI becomes AGI and ASI, it'll get smarter. But right now, it likes really focused authorities. It would love Justin Donald. Justin's a
Mm.
lifestyle investor, and that's all. That's what he does. That's what he does. So if you really wanted to lean into AEO, pick a lane. Pick a lane. So you just like, I'm the franchise guy. All the other stuff you do, still do that stuff, but you're not as loud, you're not as public, you don't publish about it. That's number one. Number two, once you've picked a lane, start optimizing for Eric Van Horn, not for franchise secrets. So the website is Eric Van Horn, the podcast, you're like, hey, don't change names, don't move anything around, but you're just making sure that, and then there's from a technical perspective, the one really important note is to understand that all AI right now relies heavily on schema, which I didn't know what schema was when I learned this. My data team taught me this. This is really interesting. Over 90% of all the citations used by AI come from websites that have schema validated schema. Over 90%, which
What does that
adjusted
even
for
mean?
margin of errors, all of them. Schema is like it's like the table of contents on a website. It's what a computer goes to a website and then the computer that is the website says, hey, this is what this is about and this is what all this information is. So there's your content, but content requires the AI to crawl and distill and understand the content. The schema is like the content underneath the content that says, hey, here are the cliff notes. 90 some odd percent of all citations used by AI have schema validated schema. The reason I'm giving you that statistic is because only 12% of the websites on the internet have schema validated schema. So all of the AI world is relying on less than 12% of the internet, because less than 12% of the internet have done the job that is necessary to make their website visible to AI, so to speak. So if you do nothing but add schema validation to your website, and you might say, Kasim, how do I do that? And I'll say, Eric, I don't know. I'm not a web developer. Go ask your web developer, because it's not hard. You can actually ask ChatGPT for a schema strategy. Just say, I need to schema every web page on my website. Here's why. And then you need to do it page by page, but just ask, whatever your AI of choice is, and it'll plug out your schema and say, add this to your website, send it to your web developer. Bam, you have schema validated schema. Only 12% of websites have schema validated schema. And then you can go to schema.org, schema.org, and then plug it through its schema validator, and it'll give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then where it gives you thumbs down, have your web developer fix it, and congratulations, you have schema validated schema. Once you've done that, that's the only technical level. Once you've done that, start creating authority-driven content and put it everywhere. AI loves multimodal content. So you have your podcast, strip the video here, put it on YouTube, cut those up, put them on Instagram. And if people really like what you have to say, and especially if you start getting social comments are to AEO what link building was to SEO. So in SEO, you wanted Forbes to link to you and say, Eric Van Horn is a franchise authority. With AEO, you want an Instagram comment from somebody who really knows their shit saying, dude, Eric's the only person I'd listen to. And AEO reads that signal and goes, bam, just like a human would, going back to our first principles.
So if you're like one little tip off of that would be have content, especially if you don't have calls to actions, you're not selling something, it's about giving value. Have that more of a engagement related post versus like hard call to action or something like that.
Dude, there's no selling anything, and you'll see this with everybody that knows what they're doing. Iman Gadzhi, Cody Sanchez, Gary V's maybe one of the first, Tony Robbins, Alex, of course. Show me a CTA on any of their posts. There isn't one. It's
Yeah.
give, 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 give.
Yep.
And if there's an ask, it's coming 3 years from now. Everybody's like, Alex Hormozi made $100 million in a day. No, he didn't. He made $100 million in 7 years.
Yeah.
That guy didn't have an ask for 7 freaking years. And then one day he waited for the equity to be high enough, and then he cashed in on his social equity. That's the game that we're all playing right now. The direct response is, dude, direct response was going to die, right? Like it was built to die. It was this thing. It was a pressure cooker created by content being so readily available within a brand new technology that nobody know how to use. But everybody got sick of it. Like, it's the reason dude, it used to be 20 years ago, you could send an email and sell something. You know what I mean? You could cold email somebody and sell something because they're like, oh my gosh, somebody just emailed. You know what I mean? And now it's the most obnoxious thing to get a cold email. It just pisses me off that somebody got past my spam gate. Like the game now is the game it's always been for as long as humanity has been able to speak and think and act, which is reciprocity. It's give. It's show people, hey, I'm a human of value who's worthy of your trust. And over time, you're going to build that tank, and then someday they'll come to you. And, the screen is the new campfire, dude. Like, it used to be that you and I were in a tribe together, and over time, I built your trust because when I killed an animal, I shared with you and your kids, and I carried water when there was water to carry. And when people attacked the tribe, I defended, the equivalent of 1.1 or more of me, right? So I'm like worth at least my weight. And now on a long enough timeline, you're like, you know what? I'll trade with Kasim. Like, this seems like a good dude. It's all the same shit, dude, on an anthropological scale. It's just now digitized. And it's kind of like, what did, people that are looking for hacks and tips and tricks and best practices and all that garbage, I don't know. They're climbing a muddy hill. Sorry for the rant there. I went a little bit far afield.
Well, we've been all over in this podcast. I like it. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. There's going to be people that are like, this is way over my head. I don't want to have anything to do with this. There are going to be another group of people that are like, I like this guy. I want to learn more. Where do they go to learn more?
Kasim.me, KASIM.me. I wrote a book called The AEO Blueprint. Your audience can have it free if they want. I have a community that's free. Go to AEO.co. Everything's free. Dude, I'm practicing what I preach. The book is free. The community's free. It's all free. And we teach everything that we've learned. All my data has been made available. So if you really want to crack the code on AEO, come check us out, and we'd be happy to help.
Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.